Yeah, you guys were almost caught up to me, and that just didn't sit well with me. It's Romania Black, and yes, you all were almost caught up with me with Berserk, and I was like, ooh, I feel like dangerous things are afoot. Things are gonna happen in this last part of the anime that I need to watch ahead. I need to know, right? I need to know some things before we get too far in. So I am watching episode 21. I watched episode 20 a few days ago, and I was like, oh no, I need to watch this episode. But I do have some comments to talk about, so that's fun. But yeah, so I find the contrast from last episode where Griffith is wallowing in despair in this dungeon, you know, for a year while Guts is out living his best life, just getting stronger, finding purpose, making friends. Oh yeah, and my old friends need help, so I guess I'll go do that. Guts is just having a great time. He doesn't know that, as he's gone off to find himself, he's left all of these people wallowing in desperation behind him. And it's like, man, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And Griffith knows that now. And the troop knows that now. And it really becomes apparent how reliant they were upon Guts. And for Guts, it's so crazy because he didn't think he was somebody that was really influencing people like that. It's like, yeah, you really were. So there is that. But I want to go ahead and talk about a few comments before we dive into this episode. Moomin Komet had a lot of really good things to note. I think I've noted this a few episodes back, but I do realize, I think I've talked about it in the discussion, I do realize that the sword that Guts has is obviously not the one that Zod gave him. The one that Zod gave him is twice as wide. It's more girth than length. It's the sword that Zod gave him. And Guts is like, that's not me. So he tossed that aside. Although that comment does beg the question, what happened to Zod's sword? Did it just vanish? Does Griffith have it? Has Griffith been waiting to use it until Guts returns? Is it under a glass case somewhere? Did it just get tossed into the ditch? We don't really know. We don't really know what happened to that sword. Nobody's really talking about it. And it seems like a weird MacGuffin to just kind of leave, especially since it was powerful enough to chop through a man and a horse in one blow. So, don't know. Maybe Zod went and picked it back up and was like, son of a bitch, you left my sword? He's got to go find Guts again and be like, take my sword, damn it. Or at least give it back, so I don't know. Who knows? We do know that the little statue in episode 18, that's the dragon, is an actual statue, according to Moomin Komet, from Bamazzo, Italy, from the Garden of Monsters, which I love. It's a 16th century garden that was commissioned by Pier Francesco Orsini and is filled with his inner monsters represented, which I'm like, that fits because, I feel like Griffith and Guts both have inner monsters inside of them, as we've come to know in this series. But the statue shows a dragon attacked by 2 or 3 hunting dogs. I love that Moomin Komet was like, it's so whimsical. I was like, yes, a dragon attacked by hunting dogs. How whimsical. As whimsical as Berserk is. Right? And also, in episode 18, there are 2 tracks that are not featured on the OST. One is the funeral song Madre Asete by Ennio Morricone, and the other is Casca's backstory by Francesco Tamponi in Anno Domini. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I did notice that they didn't seem like they were frequent tracks. I figured they were maybe different, so it's good to know they're not on the OST. Nice to know that, so thank you. And also, finally, Amir Almond. I don't know how I forgot this, but I'm glad you clarified that Amir Almond pointed out that when Charlotte gave Griffith the love necklace that she said were for lovers, it was from her dead mother. Meaning old Snake Queen that burnt up back in episode 18 was her stepmom. I was like, oh yeah, okay, right, that's right. So that explains, one, why they're not entirely sad that she's dead. She's the stepmom. Also, it adds to the evil stepmother motif. So there you get that. But thank you for clarifying that. I had forgotten. And also, yeah, the idea of things being uncovered in the snow with Guts leaving. Well, spring has sprung, so we'll see what gets uncovered in the snow. My guess is that hopefully Casca will admit her feelings to Guts, and maybe they'll canoodle or something. Who knows? We had Griffith getting a sex scene. Why can't Guts and Casca get a sex scene? Damn it. I want some romance to happen in my series before things go to hell. And who knows? Maybe we'll uncover what Griffith really feels after they go to rescue him, if they get a chance to go to rescue him. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but I couldn't wait. After watching that last episode and it being completely not what I was expecting, I was like, oh, we need to talk about it and we need to go on and watch episode 21. So I love this series. I love it so very much. It is definitely a comfort anime for me in the weirdest ways. I told my brother that and he just snorted. He was like, why? What's wrong with you? And I was like, leave me alone. Humor me. Huckleberry, be nice. My dog is being so mean. But my dog is being guts right now. So vicious. But yes, we're going to not waste any more time. We are going to start episode 21 of Berserk and see what all we get, y'all. I'm so very excited. But we're going to start that episode here in 3, 2, 1. And come on, sweet, sweet dangly hand. Tell us what ye know. Romania.exe is not functioning anymore. I don't want to tear out your eardrums, so I'm not going to scream to the mountains as loud as I can, but oh my god! Ah! Oh my god, okay, yep. I've never felt so great about watching ahead in all of my days! Ah! Oh, okay, yeah, it's fine, it's great, it's just, man, sucks to be Griffith! What an episode! Oh my god, I cannot wait. It is, do you know how hard it is? Do you know how tempting it is? Do you know how insanely hard it is to not crack this sucker open? Because I have a feeling that that scene is going to be in this. Maybe not this volume, it might be in volume 2. But do you know how insanely tempting it is just sitting here like a little behelit on my desk waiting for me to open it, but I'm not going to open it yet. Nope, because it's not time yet. But do you know how insanely excited I am to get to this episode in the manga? Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to sit there and soak it in. When the hell did Guts become a Casanova? What happened in that year? What happened? Oh my god, Mira, my dude. Oh, you're writing romance better than a lot of romance authors I read, and this is Berserk. I mean, I'm just insanely over the moon with this episode. Insanely over the moon. Now, it ends with a little bit of conflict that seems to be brewing under the surface. I'm not looking forward to that, but oh my god, this episode was amazing. What else could I ask for? I mean, we find out, Guts figured out a lot. Guts had a day. He had a day and a half, let me tell you. Oh my god. So we need to talk about this. So the little behelit is floating down the stream. Don't know what we're going to do with that. That seems to be problematic for Griffith, especially because now that Griffith doesn't have the behelit, his life is no longer being led towards whatever. What is interesting is that Zod kind of warned. Zod's warning to Guts was, if his ambition crumbles, he will kill you. And it's like, he will be the doom of you. And by ambition crumbling, I'm curious if Griffith's going to be like, Rickert made note that Griffith was pretty depressed when they were, at the campfire talking about going to rescue him. If he was depressed then, I'm sure he's extremely depressed now, because he's like, I don't have my behelit, my source of good luck is gone. And when he gets rescued, if he gets rescued by them, he's gonna probably find out that the guy he's in love with had sex with the girl that was once in love with him. Oh my god, and is in love with Casca. Oh my god, what I love about their relationship, and I said this back in episode 2, like 20 episodes ago, I said that the one thing I didn't want was for their relationship to suddenly be like, was for Casca to just be like, oh, I love you, Guts, without any development. They've had development. It has been brewing, and Casca has had a year to dwell on her feelings and realize that she actually felt for Guts, and that her feelings for Guts developed, and that she actually cared about him. And good for her, because she knew from the get-go that her and Griffith were not going to be a thing. And it's like, well, you can sit there and like wallow in unrequited love, Or she could realize that maybe her and Guts had a thing. Maybe her and Guts had a chance. And for Guts, I mean, I'm so amazed that Guts went from being like, you mean Griffith liked me, to being like, oh, you like me? Oh, okay. I want to talk about this episode. And just fill Whiteboard Kun up with whatever comes to mind. But we, I guess, need to start from the beginning. And the idea that the crew is glad that Guts is back. So, confession. Oh my God. The moment I saw that title, I was like, if we get what I think we're going to get. And a man that's as hot as Guts is standing over you. And he's a damn poet and a philosopher, and he's just standing over you. I'm like, girl, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. And I'm not even really attracted to the type like Guts, but I'm like, I hear you. Girl, I feel you. So Guts is going to help. Guts has decided that he's only there to help the Band of the Hawk get, or Bow, get on its feet. Get on its feet and rescue Griffith. Now, there's some things brought up during his squabble with Casca that I'm like, would point to some red flags with this plan that I feel are going to come up and not be, handled well. But we'll talk about those as we get them. But that's kind of Guts' plan. Guts is like, I saw you guys were in trouble. You needed me, so I came back to help you. And lo and behold, look at this. And I just love everybody's reaction. Like, Casca's like, holy shit. And he's like, hey, Captain, on your feet. Like, Guts holds Casca up to a very high standard, right? And if we go back to their discussion back with Judo, Guts, in his view of Casca, he's always viewed her as a warrior, and what he finds attractive about her, is how brave she is and how much of a soldier she is. He loves that about her. He loves that boldness to her and that she's a fighter, right? And he likes that. She's not a dainty lady. So I don't think that Guts' attraction to her comes out of nowhere, because he told Judo a year ago, yeah, I am attracted to her. I don't view her as a woman. He does now. But at the time, he's like, I don't view her as a woman because she's a fellow soldier. They just happen to be compatible, right? But he's always saw that he thought that Casca wanted Griffith, and he did not want to get in the way of that. He didn't want to be the person. He didn't want to be a homewrecker. He's like, she likes Griffith. She's attractive. Yeah, I could see myself with her, but now's not the time. So it's not that it was unfounded. It's not that it came out of nowhere. These were thoughts from a year prior with Judo that he confided in him. And when Judo's like, come on, Guts, go cheer her up. It's like, and because Judo knows that she likes Guts. So Judo's just like, you two are bakas. You're both idiots. You both like each other. It's mutual. It's consensual. Now act on it. Because, you've had a year apart. Why not? I love it. But he always thought that Casca liked Griffith, and so thus there was no chance. He had no chance to be with her, right? So he didn't think that was a viable option. So they get to band together. And honestly, if it wasn't for Guts, they wouldn't have made it, because Guts managed to change. And the way that he looks at her, the way he looks over at her and gives her that look, it's a look he's given Griffith. It's a come hither look that he's given Griffith on the battlefield. We've all seen it. We know why Griffith was all about Guts because of it. And now it's turned to Casca, and she's like, oh. And you could say there is a part that seems like, oh, well, because Griffith's not there, now he's turning this to Casca. You could say that, and I could see some people getting uppity about that. But I feel like to Guts, he's not being manipulative or playing games. He would give the same look to Griffith if they were on the battlefield. But in this moment, I feel like he's like, nah. I feel like it's those feelings that have developed over time. He's like, come on, Casca, let's do this. Like, it's amazing how much they've grown over the course of this, right? And they go, and then Corcus is wanting to go after them, but she's like, no, we have to stay back. And I just love that everybody knocks him out of the way. It's some goofy animation, but it's wonderful. And when Corcus gets up, he's like, what the hell, guys? And sees they're all after Guts. Now, Corcus is interesting in this. We're going to put Corcus down here. That, do I think Corcus is jealous of Guts? Absolutely. Do I think he's jealous? Yes. Do I think he's mad at Guts? Yes. Because he's like, everything went to hell after you left. And Guts is like, what are you talking about? And then Casca has to tell him. But I don't think that, I think that he is not going to threaten Guts like he said he was going to, because he's kind of a coward, kind of a trash king, and he knows that everybody else is supporting Guts, and so Corkus is not going to do something that's going to get him in trouble. That's just not how he rolls. That's not Corkus's MO, but you can tell he's not happy to see Guts, but he's like, whatever, you saved us, so I guess I won't hate you forever. And then, oh my god! I'm going to be taking screenshots while I talk with you all about this, but Guts giving Rickard the head pat, and he's like, Rickard, you're still alive. He's like, I didn't think you'd make it, Rickard. And it's like, oh my god, giving him the head pats. Oh, shut up. I was like, I just absolutely 100% down with this. And then Judo, I love, he's like, hey, welcome back, dude. Him and Pippin, like, it's just such a wholesome reunion. I absolutely love it. And Guts being like, hey. And Corkus is obviously not happy because, you know, Guts is back. And he's like, well, but it's just, like, Rickard has the tears in his eyes. It's the sweetest thing. I love it. But yeah, Corkus isn't happy. He's not having it. And that's when they're like, Commander Guts. And I love that the troops, the guys that he was probably talking about back at Bonfire of Dreams with Casca, those guys that had these dreams and everything, they stuck with the Band of the Hawk, I'm sure. And they're all happy to see Guts again. Like, it's this beautiful reunion, and I freaking love it. But then Casca, she's like, hey, we got to get out of here while it's still dark. And Guts is like, no, Casca's right. She's thinking like a leader. She knows if we don't get out of here while it's dark, we're going to be in a position where we could get hurt. So she's just thinking of the team. So then they manage to get out of there, and they make camp and everything. And Judo explains what's been going on. So basically at this point, they've lost a fifth of the group. And they can't really be called an army anymore. They've lost a fifth, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. Especially when your band, if your Band of the Hawk was 200 people, then you've lost what? Not good at math. What is that, 40 people? You've lost a fifth? Is that 40 people out of 200? That's a pretty significant amount anyway. But still, regardless, it's like they're not really an army because they don't have the same leadership. Like, Casca's kept them afloat, but that's been it. It's like, it could be worse, but like without Casca, it's like we all gathered under Griffith's orders. And so it was a trap. Basically, the people of the Midlands, the entire court, gathered them all there on their horses, and they hadn't ridden in a while, so it establishes they had a hard time getting away. And it was all a trap to get rid of them while Griffith was in prison. So I think in this episode there are probably more manga details that are going to be expanded upon, but they condensed it in this episode because we've got to get to that sex scene, and yes, we do. But I'm excited to read the manga to see what all is being expanded upon. So don't tell me. Let me find out when I read the manga. It's going to happen. I'm excited beyond all belief. So yes, please. But he's like, we haven't ridden the horses in a while, and we waited, and then sure enough, Griffith didn't come, but all of the arrows did. He'd been captured for treason. And Guts is like, Griffith captured for treason? Why? I thought that he was going to be king. And Judo's like, it's the day after you left. Yeah, the day after Guts left, Griffith went and had his canoodling with Charlotte. And it's one of those things like, Guts, if you had just stuck around like another month, then that may not have happened because they would have been knighted and everything. But, you know, what ifs are what ifs, right? You just can't predict them. And he's like, well, the Griffith that we knew, he's like, that doesn't seem, he's like, why did that happen? And then Rickard hits it on the head. Rickard's like, after you left, Griffith was depressed. He's like, if you ask me, it was because of you. Like, no, Rickard is like absolutely correct. He's like, Griffith was depressed. Griffith was depressed, and he did that treason because of Guts. And I like in that moment, Judo is like, no. He's like, let's not talk about that. Let's not bring that up. Let's not make Guts feel bad. He just got back to save us. He's like, no. He's like, now's not the time. And Guts is like, really? He's like, he took it that bad? He's like, and that's when Corcus says, don't flatter yourself. What happened has nothing to do with you. Nothing. And he's like, but you should have seen how Casca came through. I like that Corcus is separated from the group. Corcus is isolated. He's isolated. And I feel that Corcus does not want to admit, he doesn't want to admit the effect that Guts has on Griffith and the other men. He doesn't want to admit that Guts is like a natural born leader and he rallies people beside him like Griffith. I feel like there's a part of Corcus that would like to be like Griffith, but Corcus has long since realized that's never going to happen. And so he's just kind of settled that he'll just be part of the group, but he's never going to be like Griffith. Then you have a guy like Guts come along who is very similar to Griffith in a lot of ways, and it bugs him because Guts seems quite oblivious to that fact, and Corcus thinks it's so obvious. So you can tell he's upset about it. But yeah, poor Casca had 5 serious wounds, but led them and became our leader. And our luck hasn't run out yet. And then that's when we're going to have an operation to go and rescue Griffith. And I like the way Judo says this. It's the idea that the Band of the Hawk, it needs Griffith. It's not the fact that they need him to be king, but Griffith is the one that they've followed. He's the one that's tied to their dreams and their aspirations. And without Griffith, they've just kind of been wandering aimlessly. And they've looked to Casca for leadership because she followed Griffith too. And she was kind of like the main follower of Griffith. So they kind of they're like little fledglings all going along with her. But Judo's like, no, the Band of the Hawk needs Griffith. We need someone. It's just Griffith formed this group and we need him to carry on. So we got to go rescue him. Whether he becomes king or not, we need him. Makes sense enough, right? And Guts is like, sure. And then I like that he's like, we're counting on you, Commander. And then Corcus is like, he's an ex-commander. And I like that Corcus kind of holds him accountable. He's like, because you left this all... And he kind of changes his tune, right? At first he wants to say that it has nothing to do with Guts involving Griffith. But then he changes his tune and he's like, actually, it has everything to do with you. You're the reason why we suffered. So you got to make things right. At least make things right. Got it? Corcus kind of reveals his true nature as the conversation goes on. And Guts absolutely understands. He's like, yeah. He's like, okay. I'm going to sit and I hear you. So yeah, he's like, I'm going to see this through that you guys get Griffith back, because if it's my fault that you lost him, I'll see it through and help you. And Judo and Rickard are kind of like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. And so as he gets up to go walk around, Judo's like, hey, wait a minute. He's like, you need to take care of Casca. And Guts is like, what? And he's like, that fateful day a year ago, she spent 3 long nights on the brink of death. And in the throes of nightmare, she cried out over and over again for Griffith and for you. And Guts is like, oh, okay. And of course, she's just sitting over there like, oh, you told him? I love that look on her face is like, oh, Judo told you. Great. Because, of course he would. He's trying to be matchmaker. But so, Guts in this moment is like, okay, well, Casca, she likes both me and Griffith. Again, this love triangle, I tell you, it's possibly my favorite media. I don't know any other love triangle that I'm rooting for exclusively as hard as I am this one. And she just looks over like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. And he's like, she's pushing herself more than she'll let on. And I just love the way he's like, well, do something about it, won't you? And then he's just like, the rest of us aren't up to the task. And he does the wink and the nudge. The wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He does that. He's like, none of us can really satisfy her, but you might. And Guts is like, excuse me? I'm glad that Guts isn't oblivious. He recognized her period, so I guess he gets it. But I'm like, there's a part of Guts that seems so simple. and seems like he wouldn't know what to do. He knows what to do, clearly. And I'm like, well, I'm glad. I'm like, you lucky girl. I'm like, Guts is like a big old sweetheart, secretly. So then we go to the tower that Griffith is being kept in. The tower with all of the eyes around it. Like the eyes. That reminds me a lot of the Behelit, right? And we see these torture devices. And Griffith has on his head, he has the helmet that is the Band of the Hawk, right? And so we see this weird guy, this creepy ass mofo that's torturing him while he has the helmet on. And so Griffith looks really emaciated, like they've been starving him. And him pushing in the needles, and it's like his fingernails have been torn off. You'd think for a second that they're black, like they have nail polish. No, his fingernails have been ripped off. He's bloody from being shackled. Like he's just sitting there barely holding on. And he has these, he's like, oh, don't worry. I'm avoiding your vitals, so you're not in any mortal danger. The king has ordered me to ensure you live at least another 3 years. So apparently the king was really pissed that he like canoodled with his daughter and was like, I'm gonna let you live for 4 years, but you're gonna be tortured, basically, in this dungeon. That is a lot harsher than I expected the king to be. But Griffith just keeps his composure for the most part. And he just keeps sticking all these needles in. Oh, it's awful. And Griffith just doesn't do anything. And he's like, youth can be so frightening. He's like strung up. And he's like, or should I say it's a marvel to behold. And he has like the brand, like the iron, right? A man must live with his standing, even a hero as great as you. You were quite misguided. And then he's like, I've been wondering about the unusual charm that you've been wearing. And he's like, but it has no power to protect you, so it's utterly useless. And so he tears it off and throws it down the drain. And Griffith, in that moment, like, feels the pain of the burn, like, from the, like, hot iron there. So, the thing about the Behelit, right? The Behelit's been tossed. And it's floating down the river. They had that snake demon come up, right? The snake demon shows up, and I'm like, is that the one that the Fief Lord? Here's my thing, right? Here's my thing. The demons that are supposed to come at this eclipse, right? We don't know anything about them. We don't really know what this eclipse is going to bring, when it's going to happen. It seems like it's happening very soon because they're all showing up, right? And the demons, all Zod said was that they were going to come down and rule the earth. I'm like, the Fief Lord from episode 1 has a Behelit. Did he grit the Behelit? And did he make a deal with the snake demon and they like became one and fused together? And that's what happened, what we got with episode 1? Is that the case? Is that what happened? I don't know. And then, so if that's the case, because the Fief Lord had a Behelit in episode 1 that Guts found and got a hold of, he's like, oh, this is like the one that Griffith had. And he took it with him. So did the Fief Lord that we saw in episode 1 like make a deal with the snake demon after getting the Behelit? I don't know. That is a very, very good question. But it seems very weird that we would see in the exact same scene the snake demon, a giant snake, like what we saw with the Fief Lord in episode 1, and the little Behelit going down the stream in the same scene at the same time. Seems suspicious. Now, I do think that Griffith lost that Behelit a long time ago in the manga. I could be wrong too, but it felt like in that moment, like, why would the guy just now after a year be noticing the Behelit and taking it off now? Unless he was just like, well, it's been a year and this hasn't helped you, so bye. But it just seemed weird, so I wondered if maybe in the manga he just had the Behelit for longer and he took it off later and then we're just now seeing it float down the river. I don't know. But yeah, it is kind of like, it is a little bit degrading too that they left Griffith in the helmet from the Band of the Hawk. They left him in that helmet. Now, that helmet and Griffith being in it is what we saw in Guts' memory from episode 1. So, episode 1, we saw Griffith in the helmet, and that's how Guts envisions him. So the question is, when they go to rescue Griffith, is Griffith going to be super pissed that Guts has had a great old time while he's been down there suffering nonstop? I don't know, but it doesn't sound good, right? Especially if he finds out that his sword, Casca's been canoodling with another sword. I don't know. I just don't know. So there's lots of callbacks in this second half of the episode where, like, Guts confronting Casca by the tree is very reminiscent of Bonfire of Dreams, where they were by the tree talking, right? And then the whole thing where she's, like, on the waterfall and Cascade's down. I'm like, is he gonna... I thought he was gonna jump after her and they were gonna land and get their armor soaked and end up in another cave again. You don't have to worry about the cave this time. It gets sorted out. But yeah, she basically... in this story, fighting with swords is foreplay. Fighting is just foreplay in this story. You know, it happens between Griffith and Guts. Happens here between Guts and Casca. It's just their way of, like, having some intimate relationships before it all goes down. But she basically just, when she had her sword next to him and they were super, super close, I was like, oh my God, just kiss. And then when they actually did just kiss, I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you, because it was driving me crazy. But yeah, she's like, it's your fault that all this happened. And Guts is like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Griffith and the Band of the Hawk, everything. It went to hell because of you. And Guts is like, I did this. He's like, why do you say that? He's like, what did I have to do with this? How? And she's like, because you left us. Because you left Griffith. And he grabs her hand and he's like, what are you talking about? Like, that can't be right. He's like, it's Griffith. The Griffith that we both know. What I did wouldn't be enough to bring him down. And at that moment, Casca's like, oh my God, you're an idiot. She's like, you don't get it, do you? So Guts, he had full faith. He had full faith in Griffith that his dream trumped anything else. He was like, well, he's got this dream. Me leaving is not going to affect that dream. And Casca's like, and you just see her eyes gleaming like, oh my God, he really is this naive. Like, she just is so floored in that moment, right? And he's like, there's no way, don't you see? And she's like, you really are a hopeless fool. Like, her face, it looks so relieved in that moment because she's realizing, oh my God, he is an idiot. Like, he didn't leave us because I feel like in her heart, she was wondering if he left out of malice or if he left out of resentment or if he left just to torture them. And now she's realizing, no, he's a dummy. And he left without realizing he thought so much of us. They didn't realize how much we depended on him. She's like, you are a hopeless fool, aren't you? And that's when she, like, goes after him and she says, as she's swinging her sword, she's like, I told you this once before. Those striving to achieve greatness carry a burden greater than anyone else. And she's like, Griffith had to become stronger than the rest. So in her mind, she points out to him that Griffith put on an act, acting like it didn't affect anybody. She's like, Griffith acted like everything was fine, but it was all an act. And as she's swinging, she's like, but Griffith is not a god. He's a human. And ideals and dreams alone aren't enough to satisfy a man's heart. So yeah, she talks about, which is not exactly at the fountain what Griffith was saying. Griffith was talking at the fountain that all men may want women or whatever, but all a man wants is that they all have a dream, right? He says everyone has a dream, and he talks about how only those who can have dreams like him could be his equal, and that's what Guts has been going off of. But then Casca says no. Casca's like, that's a bunch of BS. He's like, dreams are not enough alone. Dreams are not enough. She's like, they don't satisfy a man's heart. And Guts is like, well, I'm not disagreeing with you. She's like, it was you who came along and made Griffith weak. And Guts is like, wait, what? So she basically says that, she says that Griffith fell for Guts. She basically says that. She tells Guts in that moment, she's like, hey, remember what I told you about Griffith? Yeah, he liked you. And you leaving had a bad effect on him. And he was like, oh. She's like, he can't go on without you. And Guts is like, oh, shit. And that's when he realizes that when he left in the snow, he's like, oh, I took that as just a stumbling stone. I didn't think he was legit into me. And Casca's like, yeah, he was into you. And when you left, it ruined things. And Guts is like, well, shit. And that's why he lets her get him with the sword. And she's like, what? Also, he looks so much bigger than her in that moment. And she's like, impossible. You could have dodged that. And he's just he's like, what was I supposed to do? He's like, I don't understand. He's like, I was just doing what Griffith wanted me to do, right? And she tells him to let go. And he's like, I did what I had to do, just like Griffith. And I like that Guts in this moment is like, well, that's not fair to me. You know? He's like, so what if Griffith, he's like, Griffith did his thing, did his dream. He's like, why can't I find mine? He's like, I was just doing what Griffith was doing because I admired Griffith and I wanted to be equals to him and be his friend. So I went off to do my own thing. Why am I the one getting blamed for ruining everybody else when I was just doing what I thought Griffith would appreciate? And it's like, well, if y'all talked this out before you left, maybe that wouldn't have been a thing, right? And it kind of goes back to Casca later on when Casca is like, can't you consider my wishes? Like, she does kind of the same thing with Guts when he says he's going to leave. And the thing of it is, he does the same thing. She goes, well, you're getting ready to leave and go do your own thing. She's like, you talk about this. Griffith talks about that. She's like, why are you ignoring me and the people you have relationships with? And that's when Guts says the whole thing about come with me. That's when he says that. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, he's like, I just did what I had to do, just like Griffith. And Casca's trying to get him to stop. And he's like, all I did was what needed to be done. How was I supposed to else was I supposed to handle it? He's like, was I just supposed to keep following you all forever and not have my own aspirations and my own dreams or find my purpose? And Guts is asking her and she doesn't have an answer for him because she doesn't know, right? She's not been in that position. And they just look at each other and she's like, I get it. She's like, I understand what you mean. And the truth is that you're right. She's like, you should have been able to go do your own thing. And she's like, this whole time, I've been trying to keep us all together because I liked the status quo. She's like, I liked how things were. And she's like, I can't bear the fact that I didn't want either of you to go. If only I could change the way my heart feels, it'd be so much easier. She's like, if only I didn't like you. She's like, I wanted to keep you and Griffith close to me because I care for you both, right? And then she's like, I'm not dumb. She's like, I knew all along that Griffith was going to go with Charlotte because that was the route to him being a king. And she's like, if I couldn't stand by his side as a woman, then I would be his sword. And we've talked about this the whole time. It's like, yeah, Casca's like, I get it. That was how I was coping with it. I knew I couldn't have Griffith, the man that I wanted. I knew it was never going to happen. And so I thought, well, I'll just let it be unrequited love and I'll just be his sword and just guard him till his ending days and that'll be it. And she's like, but then the day that you left, I realized that I didn't want to be by Griffith's side anymore. She's like, my dream had ended already. She's like, I was into you. The reason I kept us together was, even if it was just a phantom hope, was because unless I cling to y'all, I may lose myself. But it doesn't matter now. And that's when she tries to like let go of her dream and she leaves it to him. And he's like, why are you being dumb? Get back up here. He's like, what are you thinking? He's like, I can't afford to be dragged down with you again. And that's when she's like, oh, you're an idiot. She's like, you're always spilling blood because of me. And at that point, Guts is like, oh, I see what you're meaning now. He's like, this is what you're talking about. You're just being a little over dramatic. But I love when he just takes the tear, like the little finger and wipes the tear away. When the hell, if you had told me in episodes 1, 2, and 3 that Guts would become this romantic peak gentleman with her, I would have been like, you're joking, right? But no. And it makes sense and it works. and my heart sings. I could rewatch this scene over and over again of them finally getting together. And she's like, yep, the day you left, I realized that you were the one I couldn't take my eyes off of. But the thing of it is, it's like, she's like, the gift that Griffith gave me was to be a sword and to defend myself. And she's like, and then I realized my heart wasn't going out to him anymore. It was going out to you. And she's like, I felt like I had lied to Griffith, but that's just how hearts work, you know? And I'm glad for Casca, because Griffith, I don't think, was ever going to love her the way she wanted to be loved. And the thing about it is, the way this triangle works, it's so messed up, right? Because you have Guts, you have Casca, and you have Griffith. And we've had this triangle up for a long time now. But the thing about it is that Casca would love to give love to Griffith. But Griffith is not going to give it back. It's just never going to happen. Griffith does not view her that way. He likes her as a friend, maybe as a comrade, but as a sword, but that's it. He does not love her romantically, right? And then I do think Griffith loves Guts romantically. Griffith is like, Guts is all his, and he wants Guts to himself, right? Wants him as a possession, right? It's very possessive, right? But my thing is, I don't think that Guts likes Griffith back like that. It's unrequited for Griffith. I think the Guts admires Griffith. I think Guts views Griffith the same way that Griffith views Casca, as someone that's a valued person that they would do anything for. But I don't think Guts wants to make out with Griffith. Griffith for sure, Guts, yes, absolutely. Like touted around naked in front of him, absolutely, right? Then you have Guts, who had this relationship with Casca that he didn't think was even possible, but he did find her attractive, and now Casca has found Guts attractive, and they've been able to make it work, right? Do I still ship Guts and Griffith? Yeah, obviously. Obviously. It's like the unrequited love trope, but I think Guts is so shocked when he finds out that Griffith liked him. He was like, oh, I didn't think it was like that between us. Because would you have left Griffith if you did? Oh my God. And then they finally, basically she realizes, she's like, but, oh my gosh. And we actually get it. Yeah. Them together. I thought it was all in her head for a second. She's like, I can change. There just might be a place for me inside this man's soul. Oh my God, that line. There may be a place for me inside of his soul. Yeah, I think so. I think he likes you fully. Girl, luckiest woman in the world. Getting to get it on with Guts. Griffith would be jealous. I love it. And she's like, instead of only taking, I might be able to give something back this time. I love that she's like, instead of just taking what I'm given, I want to reciprocate. And that's where this comes in. Oh, the romance, y'all. The romance, I'm living for it. My heart is full. And then, yeah, them just like together by that tree, let me tell you. And he's like, I want to put things back together, and I'll stay till we rescue Griffith and get the band on his feet, but that's it. And I have to go on my journey. I'm through. And he tells her his ambitions. He's like, I'm not going to draw swords for others. I don't want to hinge on anybody else's dream. And she just laughs and gets mad. And she's like, I'm impressed. But she's like, you know, why are you not thinking about me? And that's when he says, come with me. And him just hugging her. Oh my God, she gets to hug his giant man body. Oh. So here's the thing, where he says, come with me. And he asks her to join him. He's like, I don't know what the future will hold. And that's the thing. He's like, I don't have a future like Griffith all planned out ahead of me. I don't know what's going to happen. But he's so sincere there. He's like, I don't know what it'll bring. But he's like, all I know is I haven't held you long enough. And I'm like, the poetry. That's my heart. Oh, my Lord. The shipping. It's too much. It has been, I can't tell you how long it's been since I've watched a show with canonical shipping and canonical romance like this. It's been a long damn time. I have spent so many years on this channel just shipping and hoping for some kind of romantic canonical thing like this. Why can't we have more of this? What is your problem, mangakas? Why can't you give us this? Is there something wrong with having them canoodle? Is there something bad about it? I don't think so. And then she's like, oh, Yubaka. And he's like, I want to make love with you 100 times, no, 1,000 times more. And I'm like, why can't we get this? What's wrong with you all? Make more of these series, please. Please. Peak romance. Oh my god. Oh my god. And girl, I would be blushing too. I would be blushing too. That's how I feel right now. And she knows he's being honest because Guts is such an honest, straightforward man. There is no manipulation there. There is nothing. He's like, I want to make love with you and take you with me. And I'm like, it's like, strap me to your back and let's go. But the thing about it is Griffith being very serious, or Guts being very serious and saying, I want you to come with me. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I want you to be with me, and that's how I feel right now. And I feel like that is a big difference from Griffith. Griffith wants people to come with him to use them. Guts wants to be with Casca because he likes her, and because he wants to be with her, and he's attracted to her. And I'm like, what else can we say about this, right? What else can we say about this? And I'm like, girl, I love this moment. And they're just kissing there before the demons come out of the woods. Like, the fudge. Why are we having this? Now, the snake that rises up looks like it might be the Thief Lord. We don't see their face, but it might not be a demon. It might actually be the Thief Lord. Don't know. Don't know. A little bit worried about all of this. And then I like the idea that, okay, what does Rickard say here? He says, Rickard ends up sticking behind, right? Which might not be a bad thing. Rickard ends up not going. He's like, if it weren't for my arm, I could have gone with you guys. And Judo's like, it's okay. He's like, don't be disappointed. It's like, you'll be the first to get a hug from Griffith when we come back. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. So I have two things that I'm worried about. One, this is my problem with a lot of times when we finally do get romance between characters. If it's not at the very end of the story, like where they get the anime dad haircut and they suddenly have 6 kids, usually that means that a character's gonna die. I don't want Casca to die, okay? So she just finally got to be happy and have sex with Guts. I want that to happen like 1,000 more times in volumes, 4 through 42 of whatever Berserk is. I want that to keep on happening. I don't like the fact that they've canoodled and now they're like, we're off to rescue Griffith. If she dies after this, I'm going to have problems, author. I am. Because I'm going to be like, that usually happens. Either they end up together at the very end with like 6 kids, or they have sex in a manga and then they die. And I'm like, why is that a plot line? Why is that a narrative thing? Why can't characters have sex and move on with their lives? Why is this a thing? Why? My other thing I don't like is Rickard. It's like a double-edged sword. I'm glad Rickard's not going because of his arm. But then at the same time, if he stays back and Pippin, Judo, and Guts and Corcus are gone, and it's just Rickard and the troops, I worry that Rickard's gonna die. And so I'm like, ugh. So I'm like, would this show kill off 2 characters by the end of this series? Yeah, it would. It's all been going so well, and I've been like, well, things haven't been so bad in this series. I'm like, oh no, am I about to be in danger? I don't know. And then that's when Casca shows up and she's like, let's go. And I'm like, Guts brings it up. Guts is like, hey boss, let's go. And she's like, you don't be getting on everybody. Don't be telling everybody about what we've been doing. Oh my God. Oh my God, y'all. She's like, we're departing for Midland. I am very excited for the next episode, but I'm also very trepidatious and terrified. Don't know what we're going to be getting with this. But I don't feel comfortable about the snake monster, the demon showing up. I'm like, is that a sign the eclipse is about to happen? The Behelit is no longer with Griffith, so that's problematic. Guts and Casca have had sex, finally. They finally did the deed. Glad for them. Glad for their relationship. But I'm like, at what cost? That was my thought at the end of this episode. I was like, we just got amazing character development, amazing peak romance, And I have a feeling that the author's like, well, wasn't that fun? Did you enjoy that? And I'm like, okay, we got all these amazing things, but this is clearly like only the beginning of the story, so at what cost? And I'm not ready to find out what that cost is. So, and we know from episode 1, things are not good. Guts loses an arm, possibly an eye, and is separated from the others. So I don't like where this is headed. And I am not looking forward to seeing. I feel like this was like this episode, amazing. You're going to enjoy your life. You're going to have the best time. You're going to come back to this episode over and over and over again because it's so damn good. But the rest of the series, yeah, I'm going to make you suffer. And we only have 22, 23, 24. We only have 4 episodes left of this season, of this series of the anime. And then we get into the manga. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go back and maybe rewatch this episode a dozen times. I don't know. Like I said, it's been so long since I've had like a legit romance that's canon, that's here. I mean, I've got it in BL. Don't get me wrong. Heaven Official's Blessing is doing the thing for me. But other than that series, and it's not like to this extent yet that I'm at, where I'm at reading, but to have a legit canon relationship in an anime be just fully realized and happening, poetry. So, curious to know your thoughts down below. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. But above all, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and my brain's gonna reprocess. And I'm gonna go back and rewatch this episode of Berserk. Bye.